Hello, and welcome to my top 25 players that are going to the EWC competition for Rocket League coming up very shortly. Now, as you can see here, we have a list of 48 players. These are the people and their regions. I also put together a score of my average rank for them so we could look at which team has the lowest ranked players, lowest meaning closest to 1 meaning best, so lower is better for them. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and reveal the first one on my list. Top 25 player of the world of EWC, of EWC, not of the world, this is only EWC teams, is Archie. I do believe he has a very high impact on his team. On the GK team, I think he was a big part of the reason why they had kind of a stronger early middle of season run, and his defense was very critical. I think he also had some offense moments that were very important with some really great shots. So I did put him at 25. I think there's a lot of argument to be had in this C tier of like 20 through 25. C doesn't mean they're bad. It just, it's kind of like not everyone can be S tier, not everyone can be A tier. So just because they're C tier doesn't mean they're a bad player. If you make it on this list, you're a good player. Because think about it. There's 25 slots for 48 players. So there's going to be a lot of people left out that are really good at the game. So just don't trip too much on that. So Archie for me, top 25, but also not probably not top 20. I don't really see him being a top 20 player, but I like putting him right at the edge of this list. 24, Atomic from Mina. I think he's had a really great season. I do think, as a spoiler, on the Twisted Minds team, he is very impactful, definitely has his moments. I do think he's probably the main reason why they lost their series against NRG at the Raleigh Major. I think he made several mistakes that you can watch on the replays. But one series does not make or break a player. I think it just highlights that he's very talented. He definitely helped them get that far. But I do not believe he's the best player on that team. But he is, for me, the lowest ranked player. Or the highest ranked? I don't know. What's the best way to phrase that? Anyways, I have him as 24. High impact player, definitely pulls his weight on the pitch, but not quite in that top 20, top 15 range. If you disagree and you think he's really good, let me know. If you disagree and think he shouldn't even be on the list, please let me know why. But I think he's worthy of being on this list with Archie and kind of in that important role player of the team, but definitely not the peak of the team. I put him in the same category there. 23, I have Exotic from Vitality, the French player. So I've been kind of waiting to see Exotic wake up this season, basically, because he was the MVP of Worlds last year, if I'm remembering correctly, and had a very good performance there. We haven't really seen him do significantly. We really haven't seen him do a ton, honestly. And I think we're seeing sparks of it here and there. We saw some really good performances at Raleigh. I think he had a pretty good showing against NRG in that matchup. Granted, all of Vitality looked really good against NRG. That matchup is just, Vitality really knows how to beat the NRG team. There's really no other way to put it. And so that sweep series, I believe it was a 4-0 on the Saturday for the top level ranking of the playoffs. Exotic looked really good. I do think he's going to continue to look good. He's going to play well at EWC, and I expect him to also play well at Worlds later on after that. So I put him as 23. 22, our first NA player on the list, Magic Bear. Now this is where maybe things get slightly more controversial on the list, right? Because Magic Bear, relatively newer player, but also has at least, I think, 2 seasons in RLCS, maybe 3. And I think this is where it starts getting more debatable because you're going to be looking at these picks head to head. So it's like, really, Magic Bear is better at Rocket League than Exotic? Maybe, maybe not. My mindset for these type of top 25 lists is really more like impact on the team. Which player is the highest impact? If you take this player and you put them on a team that's on the bubble, do they have the skills and the overall ceiling and the floor to drag that team up? That's kind of the main criteria I'm looking for. So Magic Bear, for me, as a spoiler, is the best player on Genji in my eyes. I do think Cheese and Justin are good players. I don't know if they're top 25 at the moment for this list. I think you could make an argument in this 20 through 25 range. There's a lot of space for people to be moved in or out of the list, and it's impossible to fit everybody that I want to, but I have Magic Bear there. I think he's been very high impact for his team. I think he's definitely been the offensive leader for the squad and a reason why they've been threatening and have had some really great results, mostly regionally, but I think they have the ability to have some good results internationally as well. So I think EWC, I put Magic Bear as 22. 21, Monkey Moon, another member of Vitality, and arguably one of the more iconic living legends of the RLCS right now. I know we're talking about EWC, but really we're going to use RLCS to inform our EWC information and picks. I think Monkey Moon starting to show some more signs, but was generally somewhat disappointing. I do think there's many times on my lists over the last couple of years where he would have been a top 10 player just on pure impact. Not always the flashiest, but definitely the guy that you want on your team when you're on, Neo Tokyo game 6 of a series. He seems to peak on that map and do really well. And so I think to me, he's definitely still a top 25 player. I don't see any reason to take him out of that. I just don't see him as like a top 10 or top 15 type player, so that's where I slot him into my list. I do think of the people on this list, he's had probably the best career results out of anyone on this list, but as far as this season specifically of RLCS and what I expect to see at EWC, I don't put him as a top S or A tier player, personally. Let me know if you disagree with that. Now, the last member I have on my C tier here is Joyo. Interesting pick, right? I think the last time I did a player ranking, I actually put Archie over Joyo because I was more impressed with what Archie was doing. But I think I've come around after rewatching and kind of looking at some of the matches of the season. And Joyo really is a high impact player. He's got the offense. He's also extremely solid technical defender. Someone maybe not at the top of the top like a Rawas or a Daniel type defender, but he's definitely an extremely strong defender and really does a good job of feeding Oli and Archie goals that make their stats look good. So I think Joyo, king of assists, very good offense style. I think to me, Joyo is a higher impact player on GK than Monkey Moon is on Vitality. And so that's why I put him above that. I think those are very debatable assertions, but you let me know what you think about that. I'm going to keep going back to saying this. Can't put everybody on the list. So some people are going to get left out and some people's feelings are going to get hurt. But if you feelings get hurt from a pick, you let me know why. And I can see an argument for why that would be a good pick. Let's break into our top 20 here and let's go with 19. That is LJ. Now, LJ, super fun player to watch. I was a little bit more critical of him earlier in the season, but as the season progressed, like Birmingham, where Ultimates got top 2, and then Raleigh, they didn't make it to top 8. It's tough to rank it, but I do think LJ, for me, has replaced Chronic as the number 2 on the team. Still think Chronic is extremely talented, still definitely a Chronic believer, but I think LJ is a higher impact player for the squad and has had his shaky moments, but honestly, I think he's had less shaky moments in these matches than Chronic or First Killer have. And LJ, I mean, you guys could probably think of a specific match or something where he threw it by a mistake, but I don't think it's as much as you can for First Killer or Chronic, where you can pull up multiple points of this season where they should have done something different on the play. LJ, I think, has actually been a little bit more solid and had a higher floor than both of those guys. So I have LJ, I think, relatively high. Maybe some people might consider 19 to be not very generous, but I think 19 for LJ is good. And you can see, like, the players I put him over, like, those are quality players. So I'm definitely an LJ believer. Let's go 18. Lost, our first Sam representative on the board. I think he's been having a good season, on a good trajectory. For me, I keep going back to this point of Furia where it does seem like they kind of found that their ceiling with relying on Yan to do most of their offense was going to be top 6 to top 4. And so I do believe Lost has gotten better. Drafinho has also gotten better, but I think Lost has especially gotten better on offense. And they're really, this season, we are seeing them expand out their strategy to use Lost and Yan on their offense to generate opportunities, and Drafinho to really be the solid second man or third man in these plays. And so I think we've seen a good growth of Lost. Maybe we've seen a bit less from Yan this year than before. I've traditionally been very high on Yan as a top player in the world. On this list, I don't have him as high as I've had him before, just as a little spoiler. But I do have him above Lost still. I think he's still better player. In better is just a tough word to use, but I think he deserves a better ranking than Lost, but Lost definitely has got my eye, and I think they're showing that Furia is not just the Yan squad. It can be Yan plus Lost equals great placements. I think there's a world where this team wins. So that is my thoughts on Lost and him being a top 20 player in the EWC. 17, I have Rise. Now, Rise, to me, is a consistently underrated player on these other top 25 lists I watch from other RLCS and Rocket League content creators. I think people forget that this guy is, like, one of the most consistent people on LAN, a great in-game leader, and the type of person you want on your team if you're cheering for them or if you're playing with this person. Rise is really solid. I do have him at 17. As you can see, I have Atomic at 24. I'm very high on Nobu, which we'll see later in this list, of course. But I think Rise is a very solid B player. I think very good on LAN. And since EWC is 100% LAN, I really like Rise for that reason. Okay, 16. Joyo, my first member of the Dignitas squad. I saw some thoughts from my previous video that people think that Joyo is the best player on the team. I don't have him as the best player on the team. I do think at the end of Raleigh, when they were fighting in the grand final to stay in, Joyo was 100% the reason why they stayed in the competition as long as they did. Obviously, the Ultimate ended up losing to the Falcons. Falcons, another team I'm very high on. You'll see that those players are ranked very highly on my list as another little hint, spoiler, coming up. Joyo, very solid. Definitely, to me, this season for RLCS, he has definitely shaken off the idea that he has a low ceiling in RLCS and shown that there's no reason why this guy can't find extreme success in these competitions and win it all in the right moments. So definitely a Joyo believer. I do think apparently Jack and Stizzy have slightly higher impact on the team, and we'll be seeing that in this very soon in this video. Number 15. So top 15 in my list. Who do I have as the number 1 slot there? I have Atomic from NA. one of my favorite players, and arguably the most accomplished NA player on this list as well. So Atomic, very solid player. I do think he started the year extremely strong. I had him like a top 5 player in my first player list before Birmingham. Looked really good for Opens 1 through 3. Really good. We haven't seen as much of that in Opens 4 through 6 and at the Raleigh Major. I still think he's one of the best players in the world. I still think he's consistently underrated. And I still think that if NRG can win, if we put EWC aside for a moment, if this NRG roster wins Worlds, I think putting Atomic as the NA GOAT is a pretty solid pick. I think that's a pretty strong argument. So a bit of legacy is on the line for this player. I do believe he has the capacity to do it, and I believe he's on a team that has the capacity to do it. But as far as energy is concerned, I think right now, from what I've seen in the last couple matches, he's the lowest impact player on the team. But I also am definitely a believer in NRG, so I consider him the lowest impact player on the team, but I also think if he swapped to like almost any other team in the world, he would be an upgrade on one of the people. So still consider him a top player, just had to put him at 15 based on what we'll see ahead. 14, First Killer. That's right, I put First Killer right before Atomic. I do think we've seen really strong season from First Killer. I think he's shown some growth this year. I do think there is still some rough edges on his play style that we see in these big moments. Does feel like he does better on line play than on LAN. At least that's kind of what I'm seeing, but also keep in mind Ultimates went all the way to the grand final, beat NRG, and went on, obviously to lose to K-Core, but First Killer's had a good season. I think he's a good player. I've had him in my top 10 before. I don't think he's quite there. This last tournament kind of iced me a little bit on the Ultimates being highly rated, but we've definitely seen the reality is of the 2 majors, one of them they made a grand final. The other, they didn't qualify for top 8 playoffs. So it's tough to, what do you do with a team like that where their ceiling is grand final and their floor is not qualifying for top 8. What do you do with a team like that? It's tough to rank. So I think First Killer, higher impact on his team than Atomic is on his team, so that's why I put them ranked that way. 13, Yan. That's right, I have taken Yan out of my top 10 list. Didn't really feel like he got to show his amazing capabilities in this last Raleigh Major. I think, like I've been saying, because we're seeing the rise of Lost, which is kind of funny because these 2 players are next to each other, because we're seeing Lost get better and get more involved as one of the offensive leaders of this team, I do think we're seeing less of Yan doing incredible, amazing things, and that's a strategic choice to some extent, and I think, Yan is already a top tier player, so I don't expect to see him get like significantly better. I just expect him to be a better in-game leader and resource for his teammates to bring his teammates' skill level up. I think he's at that point of his career. But if you feel differently, let me know. If you've got Yan top 10, let me know. This top 10, top 12 list that we're about to look at is super stacked. This list is very difficult. This was really difficult. I spent more than one day, more than one session looking at this list, trying to figure out what I wanted to put. Number 12, Stizzy. Hasn't Stizzy had a great year? I think is there anyone else you could put as a better like rookie kind of breakout on a big roster team than Stizzy this year? I don't know. What do you think? I think Stizzy might be that person for RLCS this season, and I expect him to continue to do well at this EWC competition. I do have him at 12, whereas I've got Joyo at 16. I think Stizzy has a little bit more of that explosive firepower. Granted, Joyo also has very high offensive abilities, so maybe that's not the best way to phrase that, but I think Stizzy does have that ice that puts him as a very elite player. I put him at the top of my B tier. I think we need to see a little bit more good LAN results from him before I start cementing him top 10. But I do believe in Stizzy, and I am on the Stizzy hype train. I think he's going to be a leading star of the EU region for at least a couple seasons, and that show is just getting started. So I'm definitely a Stizzy believer. I have him here. High impact player for Dignitas. Dignitas, obviously a great team. And Stizzy, a lot of the times, is the spark that lights up apparently Jack and Joyo, and then they win the game. And Stizzy has also had a couple clutch moments. Earlier in the season, he definitely had some weaker moments where he made some defensive mistakes. But I think we've kind of beaten that to death, honestly. So I think based on what we've seen in recent gameplay, Stizzy, very elite player. Got to put him 12 for me. Number 11, who do I have? Daniel, my favorite player, as I say every time. Daniel, I have at 11. That's right. I had to put the Prince of Rocket League, or the King of Rocket. Well, maybe the Prince of Rocket League is a good title for him. I had to put the Prince of Rocket League outside of the top 10 by one slot, which was a little bit unfortunate, but everyone in this list is so good. I think you could make arguments for shifting this whole thing around. I really like Daniel's floor. I think he has the highest floor of any player in the world, probably. And he is consistently showing up in those key moments. He plays great online and at LAN. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the version 1 roster won EWC. I could be totally wrong about that. I would have to look it up. But Daniel has won in Saudi Arabia before, and I think I expect to continue to see good things from him. And so I've got him as 11. I think there's an argument you could make for him being a top 10 player. I don't know if top 5, just because we haven't quite seen his peak too much this year. We've definitely seen some incredible shots from him, but I don't think we've seen a crazy peak where he carried his teammates. Some of these teams, it's tough to rank because their players are so talented. It's tough to say, is this player amazing on their own, or are they amazing because they have 2 other top 10 players on their team, right? And so that makes these type of ranking lists very difficult. Like me as a champ 1, I would look better playing with Daniel and Atomic on my team than I would with other champ 1s, right? Like their skill level makes me look better and makes me play better because they're better players. So it's always tough to rank these teams because I tend to favor these teams that have great results, which we'll see here as we enter this top 10. There's no perfect way to do it. It's a mix of impact plus results plus personal vibe. But that's what makes it fun. So, breaking into the top 10, who do I have? As the first player on the top 10, TRK. And the crowd goes wild because half the people are going to say, TRK at 10, who could you possibly have above him? He's a top player in the world. The other people are going to say, okay, if TRK is at 10, obviously the rest of Falcons is in here somewhere. So why do I have TRK below the other Falcons team members as a spoiler for my top 10 here? Well, I do think TRK is a very solid player, very strong series, multiple times throughout. Played great at Raleigh, has played great online. I think he's an extremely solid player. I do think Rawas and Kalirs have a higher peak. TRK maybe has a higher floor than Kalirs has. I think Rawas has the highest floor of anybody on that team. And just to be clear, when I say floor or peak, what I'm talking about is the floor is their worst performances, their worst games, the worst they can do when they pick up the controller and play. There are certain players like Daniel and Rawas. where their worst game is better than other people's best game ever. They don't really play bad. They make a mistake or two here and there, but they really don't play bad. And that's what I talk about when I say high floor. It means they really don't ever play bad. And so you don't see them making huge whiffs or mistakes or things that lose the game for their team. Whereas high peak is obviously someone's peaking is they're playing way above the skill level of everyone else in the lobby and using that to score goals and to win the game, basically, or to give assists that win the game. Peaking over the top is the maximum potential you have in Rocket League or really anything, right? So when I say high floor, that's what I mean. If I say high peak, that's what I mean. TRK, very high floor, very solid player. Definitely a big difference maker for Falcons. And I think it's tough to say, is he the main reason why they're doing better this year compared to last year and they finally got their LAN win at Raleigh? I think you could make the argument, yes, he was the difference maker. But to me, he's a top 10 player. But I do think the other players on the team I have ranked higher. Let's go to number 9. Apparently Jack. I have come up a lot on my ranking for Apparently Jack. He's been really showing me some incredible stuff this year. I think as the in-game leader of Dignitas, he's really shown us how strong this roster is. Here you can see I've got Joyo, Stizzy, and Apparently Jack all top 16, 12, and 9. Really high on this roster, and they keep proving it with their performances. I think they got a good taste of it at Raleigh. I expect to continue to see greatness from them at EWC and then at Worlds. And I think Apparently Jack, having watched film and kind of looking at it with a critical eye, I put Apparently Jack as the most important impact player on the team, even though he has his flashes of insane offense. I do think Stizzy and Joyo show a little bit more. Apparently Jack has a higher floor than both of them, and I think he's the in-game leader that takes them to this top level that they're at now. So I'm pretty high on Dignitas, and I think Apparently Jack is officially a top 10 player in the world for me, especially as we go into EWC. And we're also in the A tier. Number 8, Drally. This one was a tough one for me because I had Drally as number 1 previously in my rankings this year, but I feel like we haven't quite seen him play up to his potential this season. It's tough to say because how they performed at Raleigh. I do think he had the worst performance compared to Vatira and Atto, so I think that has hurt his ranking in my book. And to me, it's kind of funny to talk about it this way because he's still a top 10 player in the world. He's still one of the best. So it's not like he's fallen off a wagon. It's just not relevant anymore. But I had to be a little bit more critical on Drally. I still think he's incredible. I still think he's the type of player you want on your team when you're going up against anybody in the world. You're like, I got Drally on my team. We're chilling. I know he's going to do amazing. But I had to be a little bit more critical. I do put his other 2 teammates above him on this list as another spoiler. Very high on the K-Corp roster, even though their Raleigh major wasn't the best showing for them. It felt like we saw the worst of their performance as top 8. And Twisted Minds won a Game 7 by 1 goal, so that was a really close series. I think K-Corp beats Twisted Minds probably 7 times out of 10, and that was one of those 3 times out of 10 where Twisted Minds got the better of them. Nubo was peaking at Raleigh, played really great. And I have Drally as number 8 in the world. I think I'm going to be a little bit more critical of him. I think we can also appreciate the fact that earlier in the season, he was definitely playing insane out of his mind. We haven't quite seen it as extreme this year. I think teams have actually made some strategic adjustments to target Drally and not let him get the ball, especially up on the sidewall when he's up when the K-Core kind of does their offense where one's in the middle and then their 2 are kind of on the sidewall, playing the pass out. I think teams have started to latch onto that and have kind of I wouldn't say like broken the code for that so much, but they've definitely aren't getting clipped on like they were earlier in the season. So I do have Drolly as number 8. Now, who do I have as number 7? I have his teammate, Atto. I think these two players are kind of interchangeable. If you said you had Drolly over Atto, I'd be like, okay, yeah, not anything that I want to argue about. It's I think he was a little bit better at Raleigh, so that's why I put him slightly higher. I think Atto has maybe the highest peak in the world. Definitely, like, to me, like a top 3 peaking player of the world. Maybe Zen would be number 1 on like absolute peak skill ability. But this is the type of player that can create offense out of nowhere. Really solid midfield. Does a lot of the dirty work on the pitch. Also gets demos, bumps, things like that. Definitely another one of those players on this list where you're like, hey, I've got this guy on my team. It's about to be easy. So put him number 7 overall. So with Atto and Drolly being in here, who are the 6 players at EWC that I put over them? This is where I want to see the strongly worded comments. Number 6, NA's last hope or current hope, Beast Mode. I do have him as the best player on Energy right now. I think he was playing awesome at Raleigh, especially on LAN. I think he showed up really good. If I had to be critical of anyone, I would say Daniel was a little bit below where I expect him to perform, because I think NRG wins when Daniel peaks. NRG also does extremely well and often wins when Beast Mode peaks. I think his creativity on offense is very unique, puts him in a very puts him in a very small list of offense minded players. Also great defense. Beast Mode makes crazy saves. If you're not watching, like, Energy doesn't get scored on. Big reason why is Beast Mode is so advanced at his offense that I think it makes him good at defense. Like, he can calculate what these people are going to be doing in the air and just read them, and he gets some amazing reads. Probably the most fun player to watch in NA right now, although maybe you guys feel differently. But I do put Beast Mode as top 6 player in the world. Very high on him. Think we're going to see great things from him at EWC and at Worlds. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I watch his YouTube channel and I've been seeing how he's been playing in 2v2 and 3v3 matches. He's looking really sharp, so keep your eye out on Beast Mode. Hard to miss him. Now, let's go top 5 here. I know already you guys are looking at this list. You're saying there's nobody from OCE on it, nobody from APAC, nobody from SSA, and that they're not going to be in the top 5 either. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's just too much talent going to this, as there always is. And when it comes to swapping out these players, it's always tough. I tried to fit Sphinx in. I tried to fit Banana Head in. I'm still a Banana Head believer. But I can't put him over some of these other players I have in the 20 through 25 list. I'm sorry, I just can't. Okay. But number 5. Clears. What? You've got the MVP of Raleigh as number 5 in the world? He should be number 1. I expect to see at least one of those comments. And that's a fair take. He did show extreme skill at Raleigh and was a key difference maker for the team. His stats were insane, and then just watching him play, you could just see his impact. I do think for the year, Rawas had higher impact, which is why I have Rawas higher ranked than him. But Clears definitely had a very strong Raleigh, was maybe the difference maker on what made them win. I think all 3 of the players played incredible Rocket League, obviously. But Clears, very strong player. I'm putting him just above Beast Mode right now. I think Clears and Beast Mode kind of have a similar style of being the offensive leaders of their team, and both teams are good. So I'm going to give a slight bump to Clears over Beast Mode, Atto, and Drally. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think I'm too off base. You guys let me know if you think differently. But I do have him as a top 5 player. Number 4 in the world, and the last of the A tier, Zen. Someone you may have heard of. I'm just kidding. The Zen. I have him as number 4 in the world. That's right. Not quite breaking into the S tier. Although, if you ask me if he was an S tier player, I'd say yeah. So maybe that's an imperfect point of this list. But I have him right at the end of A, towards S tier, as the number 4 player in the world. His stat line is incredible. I just don't think... I almost want to blame coaching at this point of why Vitality hasn't broken in to get to the grand finals at either event, because Zen is clearly playing great Rocket League and his stats are incredible, but it's almost like a comparison to Furia, where a year ago, if you shut down Yan, you shut down Furia. Lost and Drafinha, very good players, but last season, if you shut down Yan, it wasn't really a threat. I think people are playing the same strategy where if they shut down Zen, we're not seeing it from Monkey Moon and Exotic that they're going to carry the win and capitalize on those moments. So I still think it's the Zen show at Vitality. I still think he's a top 5 player in the world. Extremely good. I think most of these players, you could bump them up one or two slots or down 1 or 2 slots. Wouldn't really hurt my feelings. So I put Zen as number 4. Not quite S tier, but right there, up there with the best of them. Number 3, Rawas. That's right. I have Rawas as a top 3 player in the world. I think throughout the season, he's been extremely consistent, huge difference maker, incredible defense, arguably the best defender in the world right now. Let me know if you think differently. I'm always open to hearing that sort of thing. I think that's another type of player where you saw him on your team, you'd be like, yeah, we're chilling. Like, this is gonna be perfect. I don't even have to save anything. I'm just gonna go up and play offense. And Rawas really enables Kaliris and TRK to play amazing offense and good Rocket League. So I do put Rawas as a top 3 player in the world going to EWC right now. I think he's incredibly skilled, and we're gonna see great things from Falcons. As you can see, I've got Falcons at 3, 5, and 10. That's right. Falcons has 3 top 10 players for me on my list, which is the highest I think I've ever had them. It does help that they won, and they won in a very dominant fashion. I don't expect them to play worse in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I expect them to play even better. So every other team's got to bring their A game, right? This team is going to play well on their home turf. They're going to want to win again. So I expect to see great things from them at EWC. Number 2 and number 1, why don't we just show them both at the same time? Boom! I have Nobu as the number 2 player in the world and Vatira as the number 1 player. Nobu really was high on him. I think I actually had him as number 2 or number 3 in the world on my last player list, and he really lived up to the hype for me. I think he played incredible. I think he's by far the best player on Twisted Minds. He's by far a difference maker. If you take him off the team, I don't know if Twisted Minds gets the second Mina slot behind Falcons. I think Mina has good competition in these top 2, 3, 4 teams. I don't know if Twisted Minds makes it if they swap out Nobu for somebody else in the region. I think he is the difference maker. I think there's an argument for saying he's the best player in the world right now just on pure talent and peak ceiling. His floor is very good. He's a threatening player. He's got that Zen swag where if you see him get the boost pad and go up the side wall or from the back wall and he's in the air with the ball, red alerts, red sirens, sound the alarm, send 2, send 3 because Nobu's in the air and they've got to do something about it. He's that type of player. He creates panic with his skill and he finds the net consistently. I'm very high on him. I think he is at the start of a very illustrious RLCS career. I do expect him to play well at EWC. I don't know how Twisted Minds is going to play on home turf compared to Falcons. We know Falcons play well at home. I don't know what to expect from Nobu, Rise, and Atomic. I do think they're going to play well, though. So I think we're going to see another masterclass from Nobu. But all that being said, why do I have Vatira above Nobu and as the number 1 player going to RLCS? You're talking about Vatira, the guy whose team didn't even make top 4 at Raleigh, right? Well, That to me was a bit of a fluke result. I do think Vatira is the best 3v3 Rocket League player in the world right now. He is incredible, great in-game leader, great mindset for the game. I expect to see incredible things from this K-Core team, especially at Worlds. I think EWC, they're going to play extremely well, but I think Worlds, they're going to come back with a vengeance, and they're going to show the world like how dominant they can be. I think Vatira, I'm very high on Vatira. I think his floor is another elite floor where you really don't have bad series or even too many bad games from Vatira. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes, feeds his teammates, has his own offensive style that's difficult to guard and creates a lot of opportunities for his teammates. So I am high on Vatira as well. So here's my top 25 list. Take a gander. The biggest things that I want to talk about, just to supersede any comments. One, I'm not happy that I couldn't put any of the SSG squad on here. I really wanted to put Reveal, Kofor, Scribbles in my top 20 to 25 list, but to me it's like I can believe in the last time that I could believe in the hype, but after we saw the results on LAN, I don't think they're quite there yet to be on this top 25 list. I think there's a world where you could say, would you rather have Archie or Reveal on this list, or would you rather have one or the other on your 3v3 team? I think there's a world where you could say you'd rather have Reveal than Archie, or Kofor than Archie, or Scribbles than Archie, or Atomic or Exotic in this top list. But honestly, I think this list is really solid. So yeah, no SSG on there. Obviously, Justin Cheese not on there. Chronic not on there. Chronic not being on there kind of hurts me, but honestly, he hasn't really shown how good he is this year. I'm a believer. I just haven't seen the results in the match. Got literally every single person from MENA in this list, so very high on that region. It's also EWC. They're playing at home, guys. Let's not underestimate that. I expect them to do well. Nobody from OCE. Tried to also fit KV1, Mata, or Swift in here. They all get honorable mentions for me. Similar story as SSG. I just couldn't put them much higher than them. And the reason why that they're tough to rank is because all three of them are very good. And you don't really see one of them carrying the other team members like you can in some of these other lists. And that works against them, I think, for these rankings. So that is kind of all that. APAC, wanted to put Sphinx in there. SSA, I don't think any of those guys are top 25, but they're all really solid players. So you guys let me know who is the biggest miss. Sorry about that. Drafinho, also not on this list. Maybe that's a miss in your books as well. I could see putting him in that top 25 to top 20 range. I think that's a fair take for him. Oli not in the list as well. I could see swapping out him for these others. So I think, it's all debatable at the end of the day. But where this takes us to is kind of a final look just for this last minute or so of this video is I also put together what I'm calling average rank per team, where I gave unranked players 26 points, and basically the goal here is to have as lowest points as possible. So Carmine Core, just to show an example, is looking at the average of Vatira, Atto, and Drally. So we add these three ranks together. That is 16 divided by 3, so 8, 7, and 1. Quick math lesson, which is 5.3. So I do have K-Core as the, however you want to say it, the lowest rank team, as in the best ranked team by average player skill. So I have K-Core at 5.3 average score. I have Falcons close behind them at 6. And then behind those two teams I have close, I do think those are the two favorites for EWC for me, just as a little spoiler. I have a lot of other teams close behind. I've got Twisted Minds at 9.7. They get really helped out because I got Nobu at number 2 in the world right now. Then I have NRG at 10.7, Dignitas at 12.3, and the rest, let's see, I've got Vitality at 16. They get hurt because I'm not super high on Monkey Moon or Exotic right now. Hopefully we see something better for them. I've got Ultimates at 19. They get a little bit hurt because I don't have Chronic in the list. And then certain teams like SSG Wildcard, I have them ranked as like effectively unranked because I didn't put them in the top 25 list. So a couple teams have that there. But it's kind of an interesting way to look at it, I think. I still do believe in the individual skill and the cooperative effort of K-Core. I think Falcons are probably the favorite to win just because they just won at Raleigh and now they're playing on home turf. I think there's a world where Dignitas or NRG also win. I wouldn't expect too many other teams to go. Maybe Vitality makes a great run. But I think it's a pretty fair list, and this kind of encapsulates how I think about these teams too, like how I rank them worldwide. So you guys let me know what you think. Obviously, been kind of rambling and ranting on a little bit here. Would really love to hear your thoughts on this. What were the biggest misses? I would appreciate if you say, I can't believe you didn't have this player on the list. You should say what player you would replace on the list or what rank you would put them on if you just want to move everybody down. So if Oli is the number 20 player in the world, you either need to say he needs to replace Joyo on this list, or you need to bump everyone else down and move them down one slot to put Oli in there and bump Archie out of the list, if you know what I mean. So I think that is a good way to look at it, because it's easy to say, hey, you should have put Sphinx in there. I wanted to put Sphinx in there. I just can't put him in the top 25. Look at this list on the left here. It's a lot of talent. I wanted to put these guys in there, just couldn't find a spot for them. But if you can find a spot, please let me know. Thank you so much for all the support. I've been really appreciative of all the comments and love that the channel's been receiving. It's been very, very heartwarming to receive. We just passed 250 subscribers, which is a huge milestone. So thank you so much for all that support. Appreciate you guys so much. More RLCS, EWC content coming out soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care. And let's go see some great Rocket League. Bye.